The night was heavy, thick with secrets, the street lamps casting long, trembling shadows as the body lay face down on the cold, rain-slick pavement. A single crimson stain spread outward from the wound, dark and silent. No screaming, no frantic footsteps, only the soft hiss of the rain, as if the city itself dared not speak that night. That was all it took for everything to shift. In those first 10 seconds, everything changed. It was August 17th, 2018. The early hours after midnight, the neighborhood. An aging block of brick-faced row houses in the old industrial district of Eastford. The kind of place where empty warehouses sit side by side, with cheap motels where broken neon signs flicker in the darkness, where the hum of distant traffic is the only lullaby this city ever sings. The victim, 32-year-old freelance photographer Mara Delgado, known for her gritty urban portraits, strong, independent, a woman unafraid to walk the darkest alleys with her camera. That night she was returning from an underground art show in a converted warehouse, carrying only her camera bag and a half-empty bottle of water. The suspect, or rather suspects, the exact numbers still unknown, remain unidentified. Witness accounts are hazy. Some recall a lone shadow slipping into the next block. Others speak of muffled voices, footsteps that suddenly stopped. The scene was drenched in urban decay and the silent echo of unanswered questions. As Mara collapsed on that rain-slick curb, the city did not mourn her. It did not pause. The drip of water down the brick walls, the distant roar of traffic, even the stray cat that paused to glance at her body, all were indifferent witnesses. In the first moments, the crime might have seemed like one more senseless, forgotten act of violence. But hidden in plain sight was a clue, one clue. A clue that every final video revealed, yet somehow everyone missed. In the earliest coverage of the case, the local news described a robbery gone wrong, a possible mugging. After all, Mara's camera bag had been taken, and nothing about her attire or possessions stood out. She was dressed modestly, unassuming, with no jewelry, no expensive clothes. Police speculated that whoever attacked her took what little she had and fled. The general public bought the story. A mugging, tragic, but banal. But that narrative collapsed at the moment someone reviewed the footage from a nearby security camera. One of the many decrepit units still scanning the alleyway. The video captured a tall figure stepping out of the shadows, hesitating for just a split second, a hesitance that betrayed recognition rather than greed. The figure reached past Mara's shoulder, and before she could sense it, struck. The assailant fled, camera bag in hand, but left behind something unexpected. Mara's water bottle, rolling slowly in the gutter. The water bottle, a single, innocuous, nearly invisible object, became the silent witness, the clue that would unravel everything. That water bottle did not belong to Mara. Investigation later revealed it was from a nearby 24-hour convenience store, a brand seldom carried by freelance photographers, the same kind of store where local laborers and off-the-clock workers grabbed a quick drink. Surveillance tapes from that store the night before showed a man purchasing exactly that kind of bottle. He wore a dark hoodie, pulled low over his face, bought his build tall, broad-shouldered, and his gait matched the person in the alleyway video. The store clerk couldn't identify him. The footage was grainy, the hood shielding his face. Yet detectives believed they were onto something. But that's where the first great mistake was made. In the early dawn hours following the crime, detectives focused on stolen property, a common modus operandi when a robbery turns violent. The camera bag, the lens, the memory cards, those were tangible, easy to track. They followed pawn shops, online marketplaces, even underground circles known to traffic stolen camera equipment. Days passed. Weeks. Nothing. No trace of the bag, no trace of the lens. No sale. The assumption hardened. Perhaps the assailant dropped the loot, panicked, and left it. Meanwhile, the water bottle, the vital clue, was discarded, logged as irrelevant evidence, and eventually stored in evidence locker number 17, unread, untested. During that time, the media moved on. The story of Mara Delgado became one of many unsolved crimes. Social media campaigns faded. Candlelight vigils lost momentum. The neighborhood continued its nightly hum of sirens and muffled arguments. But for her family and a few determined friends, the case never cooled. Her younger sister Anna began the slow, painful work of remembrance, plastering posters, attending city council meetings, demanding more attention from police, from press, from anyone who would listen. She insisted that this had been more than a mugging, and she wasn't wrong. 2 months later, a breakthrough or so it seemed. A man 28 was arrested just 15 miles away, caught attempting to resell a high-end camera lens, matching Mara as a stolen gear. He claimed innocence. He said he had found the lens, offered for sale by someone else at a bar, and bought it cheap, believing it was lost property. The prosecution built a case on possession of stolen goods. Many believed justice was near. Headlines read, "Suspect arrested in Delgado case." The neighborhood breathed a brief sigh of relief. But inside the courthouse, the air felt hollow. The man had no credible alibi, but also no motive. He couldn't place himself at Raven Street that night. His prints, warranty, on the lens. His DNA didn't match anything from the crime scene. The lens itself had no blood, no fibers, nothing connecting it to Mara or the alley. In the shadows, the real person who bought that lens, whoever pushed it into resale, vanished. The prosecution's timeline depended entirely on the assumption that the lens belonged to the same man. Defense lawyers poked holes. The case was thrown out. The man was released. The public quickly lost interest again. Headlines dropped from front pages. The city moved on, but the question remained. Who purchased that lens to resell it? Where was the person who attacked Mara? And why had they bothered to steal her camera gear at all? The water bottle, still sitting in locker number 17, gathered dust. Then the first final video appeared. A low-budget YouTube channel, uploaded quietly, late one night. No dramatic music. No flashy graphics. MedeliaBoisesoft.com/methodical. Walking viewers through the known facts. Footage from the alley, the convenience store camera, the arrest, the court documents. At the very end, the narrator zoomed in on the water bottle. For a single second, the screen froze. Then, notice the cap. The voice whispered. The cap with the scratch. It was a tiny groove near the rim, almost invisible, but there. A long, ragged nick, as if from metal against pavement, or a collision with something hard. A tiny scar. A scar that matched nothing in Mara's hands. It matched the man from the store footage, his keys, the way he handled the bottle, tossing the cap carelessly onto the counter. The narrator proposed what no one else had, that the attacker wasn't a random mugger. He was the same person who bought the bottle. He was already in that block of warehouses. He lingered there. Maybe he worked nearby. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe he knew Mara. That final video drew a small crowd, mostly curious true crime hobbyists, skeptics, people bored of formulaic whodunit. Comments lit up with questions. Has anyone checked warehouse workers nearby? What about homeless people in that area? Could it have been a delivery guy? But still, no official action. The water bottle clue remained unofficial, more like fan speculation than real evidence. But why did that bottle matter so much? Because it held DNA. The plastic cap, nearly microscopic ridges etched from handling, plus sweat and traces of skin cells, became the key that opened the door after 2 years of silence. It wasn't until a third final video, uploaded by a more influential crime history channel, that someone noticed the bottle had never been tested properly for DNA until much later. And when it finally was tested, the result was shocking. Not one, but 3 distinct DNA profiles swabbed from within the grooves of the cap. The first matched the man who'd been arrested. The second, a match to a local warehouse laborer, a 45-year-old night shift worker known for occasional petty theft, but never violent crime. The third profile was unidentifiable in the system. A ghost in the city files. A person with no record, no driving license, no jobs under his name, no digital footprint. Suddenly the entire narrative cracked. The earlier arrest had pinned the crime on the wrong person. The warehouse laborer, column Subject B, became the silent new suspect. He lived 2 blocks from the scene. He had been seen loitering on Raven Street nights before, according to local shopkeepers. but he had never been arrested for violent crime. His record was littered with small infractions: trespassing, shoplifting, disorderly conduct. Nothing serious, nothing that suggested murder, and yet his DNA was on that bottle cap. Detectives reopened the case with cautious optimism. They searched his tiny apartment, a cramped, cluttered unit above a shuttered storefront. Inside, empty beer bottles, cigarette butts, a stack of pay-at-the-pump receipts from gas stations near the alleys, clothes matching the ones from the convenience store footage, and a black hoodie buried under stained sweatshirts. But no camera bag, no lens, no murder weapon, no conclusive proof that he had stabbed Mara. Just circumstantial evidence and a water bottle cap. In interviews, the man claimed he had nothing to do with the murder. He admitted buying the water bottle that night out of convenience, he said, and drinking from it partly on his commute home. He described a lifestyle of petty crime and hard nights, but denied ever meeting Mara. He remembered being near the warehouse district. He often worked late, hauling crates, finishing shifts at dawn, but he insisted he slept through the night of August 17th. He had no alibi, or rather, only the fading claim of a closed-bar security guard who couldn't recall if he had been present that night. Investigators searched for fingerprints on the cap, on the bottle, on the pavement. Non match. CCTV from surrounding streets was largely broken or looped nothing but static or repeated frames. The warehouse was shuttered. The motels had rotated tenants repeatedly. Everyone and everything that might have given the door a number, a name, a face, had vanished. Yet even with this reopened investigation, multiple leads, a suspicious new suspect with physical traces, the case slowed once again. The story grew colder. Detectives documented every detail, every contradictory statement. Field notes filled bound folders, but no indictment, no charges, not enough to satisfy probable cause. The prosecutors balked. The defense argued that the pennypeek of DNA evidence meant nothing without context. Anyone who handled the bottle might have left DNA. Many people touched it. The laboratory couldn't say which profile matched the cap's interior ridges and which came from the bottle's exterior. Chain of custody was imperfect. Evidence was thin. The statute of limitations for first-degree murder didn't apply, but building a strong enough case to secure a conviction, especially after the Lens Risale debacle, became increasingly unlikely. All the while, more final videos surfaced. Small creators, bigger channels, each retelling the story, each adding a new wrinkle, a new theory. Maybe it was a warehouse worker. Maybe it was part of a larger ring. Some suggested a delivery driver, a drifter, an illicit photographer who stole Mara's gear for profit or pride. Others speculated it might not have been robbery at all. Perhaps jealousy. Maybe someone saw Mara photographing something they shouldn't have: a hidden door in a warehouse, graffiti marking a territory, illicit deals behind shuttered doors. Everyone had a theory. Everyone pointed a finger, but every theory slid back into shadows when scrutinized. Still, the core mystery remained. Why was that bottle left behind? It was the one thing the attacker couldn't or didn't carry away. Perhaps he meant to pick it up. Perhaps he dropped it by mistake. Or maybe he deliberately left it a calling card, a sign for someone else. A twisted message. Public interest ebbed and flowed. Local news ran occasional retrospectives on anniversaries. True crime podcasts mentioned Mara's case in passing among cold cases. Her sister Reina continued to fight, pressing City Hall for better lighting on Raven Street, for street cameras, for improved community policing. She held vigils on each anniversary. Silent crowds under street lamps. Porters of Mara flowers rotting in the damp air. But despite the pressure, no new arrests came, no confessions, no dramatic courtroom showdowns. Then came the fourth final video. This one was different, professionally edited, with moody narration, subtle music, archival footage, maps overlaid on aerial shots of the warehouse district. The video raised a haunting question. What if the bottle cap wasn't just a clue to identity bout to timing? The narrator urged viewers to note that the cap bore not just a scratch, but residue, a faint smear of dried soda, barely visible under ultraviolet light. According to a forensic specialist quoted in the video, that kind of residue could last only a few hours after opening, suggesting that the bottle was opened and used just minutes, maybe half an hour before Mera's murder. In other words, the attacker likely purchased the bottle that same night, then loitered, then struck. That detail focused suspicion on someone active in the area that night, such as a night shift warehouse worker or someone doing late-night deliveries. Comment sections exploded. Some claimed to recognize the warehouse worker based on the video's reconstruction. Others argued the video manipulated the timing, stretched shadows, implied too much, but a pattern emerged in the comments. Multiple people reported seeing a man who matched subject be near Raven Street around 11:30 p.m. That night, a man carrying a dark backpack, pacing near shuttered storefronts. One commenter claimed a friend. A security guard had locked the warehouse door at 11:55 p.m. and saw the man loitering outside. Another claimed a motel owner had spotted someone matching the description entering a nearby room at 1:10 a.m. No names, no IDs. Just memories plus a grainy silhouette. The attention rekindled interests from a tiny group of independent investigators, amateur sleuths, who combed through public records, old delivery logs, warehouse employee rosters, city maintenance crew schedules. One even obtained access to phone tower pings in the neighborhood, hoping to triangulate a suspect's position that night. They found something. A cell phone, registered to a burner SIM card, pinged 3 towers near Raven Street between 11:45 p.m. and 12:15 a.m., just before and after the murder. The logs, however, were incomplete, mingled with multiple devices. The burner SIM vanished the next day, no link to any registered person. Another dead end. Still, for a brief flicker, it felt like the case might move forward again. Maybe the real killer could be found. But months passed. The amateur sleuths exhausted their leads. The city archives of shift logs were incomplete. Many workers were paid cash, off the books. Motels changed tenants. Shuttered warehouses erased records. The ghost DNA from the bottle cap remained unmatched. Now, 7 years after that fateful night, the case of Mara Delgado sits in the quiet archives of the district police. Officially unsolved, cold, maybe even forgotten, but not by everyone. Not by those who remember the night. Not by those who saw shadows. Not by those who held the water bottle cap under ultraviolet light and wondered who once gripped it. Listened carefully, because if you rewind the years, if you peer behind the rusted gates of warehouses, if you wander the damp alleys under leaking street lamps, you might see him. The tall, broad-shouldered figure in a dark hoodie. You might catch a glimpse of the bottle cap glinting on the ground, left behind like a silent whisper, and you might hear a faint question echo through the night. Why did he leave it? In the end, there is no closure. Not real closure. Only fragments. A water bottle cap with dried residue, a few scattered memories, grainy footage, unconfirmed sightings, a theft that led nowhere, a lens resale that proved false, a DNA match that led to 3 leads to profiles, 1 ghost, and a case file thicker than a brick wall, with every page blank after the bottle cap. Sorry, weary. 7 years later, and the real question remains unanswered. Was Mera's attacker at the warehouse laborer, call him Subject B, who briefly held that water bottle cap, maybe cracked it open, maybe tossed it aside after finishing his drink? Was the person who bought that bottle the same person who lurked in the shadows all night, striking when the alley was empty, then disappearing into the gloom? Or was the attacker someone completely different? Someone who borrowed that bottle, swapped it, dropped it deliberately to mislead? We may never know, because some clues refuse to tell their story. Some shadows never reveal their shape. And sometimes, killers don't leave behind the evidence we expect. They leave behind the evidence we ignore. That water bottle cap, tiny, unassuming, easily dismissed, was the clue everyone missed. The clue that could have cracked the case wide open. The clue that might still crack it someday. But for now, the silence remains. The streets have closed. The cameras are long broken. The witnesses scattered. The rain still falls on Raven Street, washing over the alleys, the bricks, the asphalt. It washes over the forgotten bottle cap lying somewhere in evidence locker number 17, gathering dust, waiting for a hand brave enough to open the locker, patient enough to peer into the darkness. and determined enough to ask again, who did it? So tonight, in the hush before midnight, we asked you, yes. You listening in the dark. Do you think the killer is still out there? Maybe living the same cold nights beneath street lamps, walking the same silent alleys, drinking from the same bottles, shedding DNA when no one's looking. Or do you believe the truth died with Mara Delgado, lost in evidence lockers, lost in careless mistakes, lost in indifference? If you believe there is more to the story, more clues waiting in the shadows, then keep watching. Keep looking. Keep asking, because in the darkness of unsolved crime, every whisper, every scrap, every scratch could be the one that cracks the case. If you want to dig deeper into cases like this, if you want the hidden clues, the buried evidence, the stories no one else is brave enough to tell, hit subscribe and join us at Midnight Crime Vault. Keep the memory alive and keep the hunt alive.